particular session. This is the seventh in the series of sessions that we've been having the last 2 months. And me and Louis have been doing this very uncanny, unconventional style of trying to connect us all globally into something that we believe will bear a lot of fruit for all of us going ahead in the future. So let's try to see what we have done in the last few weeks till now. So we have covered a lot of things. We have covered passions, we have covered beliefs, we have covered visions, and the big why, which was led us on to the 12-week year basics. And this went on to something called as a ikigai, or the reason of our existence, the reason why we jump out of bed every morning, and followed by mutual trust and respect. And finally, we had last week the session which kind of covered it all and led us on to this particular session, which is goals and tactics. And so this time, me and Louis are going to do it together. And goals and tactics are pretty critical for our existence. A lot of times we have goals, and we also sometimes we have tactics, but we don't really go towards a goal. And it happens a lot in both in personal and professional life. And to understand why we don't really get into a goal, I thought I'd narrate a small story. It's a mythological story from India, and it's almost 4,000-year-old episode that possibly took place somewhere in the north of India. And this is from a story from the Mahabharata, and the person you see holding the bow and arrow is a person called Arjun, who was ace archer, and the three others are his cousins. And the person you see with the hair knotted up and right on top is the archery expert, and he was called as Guru Drona. Now, this is just a prelude to the story. I'm not going to tell you the entire story of Mahabharata, but just this particular episode is something which relates a lot to goals and tactics, and also to the importance of keeping the goal in sight. So apparently, this is a pet parrot, or a small wooden parrot that the guru placed on the tree, and the task was to shoot the arrow to hit the eye of the parrot. And he pointed first to the other three people who were in the background, and he came up and told them, "Okay, so hold the bow and hold the arrow, and tell me what you see." And the first one said, "I see the parrot, I see the tree, I see the beautiful sky, I see the house." And then he said, "Step back." And then he told the next person to come in, and he told, "Hold the bow, hold the arrow, point at the eye of the parrot, and tell me what you see." And he said, "It's beautiful. I see everything. Not to worry. I can see the tree. I can see the bird. And do you see me? Yes, of course I see you. Do you see your brothers? Yeah, yeah, they're there in the background." He told, "Step back from the bow and arrow." And he called the third person in. And the same story goes. He told him to hold the bow and the arrow, and asked him, "What do you see?" And he said, "I see the whole, world around me. I see all the fields around me, the grass around me. My eyes are quite, well spread." And again, the guru in the matted hair said, "Step back." And finally, he called Arjuna, who's there in the bluish kind of a body, wearing the crown, and with the bow and arrow in his hand. And he said, he asked Arjuna, "What do you see?" And he told, "I can only see the eye of the parrot." And again, the guru asked him, "Do you see the bird?" He says, "I can't see it." "Do you see the trees?" He said, "For some reason, I can't see it." "Do you see anything else?" And this particular person, Arjuna, said, "I just can't seem to see anything else except the eye of the parrot." And at that point of time, the guru said, "Leave the arrow, shoot the arrow," and it hit straight on the eye of the parrot. Now, it's a very ancient story, and as I said, mythological story, but it has a lot of lessons that we have, and it's actually going to tie in with what Louis is going to talk soon. Uh, while we may have a lot of goals and we may have a lot of tactics, but are we distracted by things around us? I think that's what this particular story says, that you may have the eye of the parrot right in front of you, and you may know that this is the way to go. But unfortunately or fortunately, there are also a lot of other attractive things which seem to deviate us from our path. And if our eyes are only set on the goal, we should be blind to everything else. I think that's the moral of this particular story. And it's basically said, avoid the disturbance around and set your priorities right. So we need to really avoid all the clutter around us, because the world is here to kind of disturb us, take us away from a goal. But we need to be just like this particular person, um, and only see the eye of the parrot. So, with that, actually, I'm going to hand it over to Louis, who's going to take us on through the goals and tactics for the 12-week year. And it'll be this particular story will ring in as we go through the next session. So, Louis, over to you.
Sorry about that. I was trying to get off mute. Thank you so much, Deepak. That's what I love about this global community that we're building. Like that story, I had never heard that story before. And so it's so amazing to get that perspective, and it fits really, really well into, like you said, to what we're creating here. Our global vision for this community is to get results in 2020. Like you said, we've covered a lot. And from my side, there's a lot to do with the 12-week year. If you guys haven't checked that out, I want to give you a reminder. I'm going to share the screen here of what the 12-week year in summary is all about. There's a lot to it. But at the end of the day, these are their 3 tenets that go great with what we've talked about up to this point. What I'm going to really laser beam focus here for like maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So this is the baseline strategy, the 3 tenets of the 12-week year. Number 1, accountability. And that's what Deepak and I are providing for and giving to you. Number 1, commitments. Are you truly, like he just said in that great metaphor, great story, great parable of commitments? Are you looking, with a bow and arrow, and are you laser beam focused? Are you committed, or are you just interested? I have the actual definition here. I have my 12-week year field guide, and the definition of commitment in the dictionary, guys, is the state of being bound emotionally or intellectually, and I would say or intellectually, to some course of action. And last week we talked about tactics. We're going to bring that up again today. The tactics that they talk about in the 12-week year are your actions. They're not just thoughts on paper. They're not just ideas. You're not just standing there with the bow. You're actually letting it go and taking action into that step towards your future, towards those personal and professional goals that we had you set last week. And then, of course, greatness in the moment. We know that life happens, and trust me, I know this very well. I just woke up to the news yesterday that a friend had committed suicide, and it reminded me of how important it is to have a vision and have a big picture and believe in yourself and live also not in the future or the past, but in the moment. That greatness, moment by moment, is truly how we live our lives at the end of the day. So I wanted to bring it kind of a somber note, a serious note, but something that I really, really am passionate about, is helping you see your greatness, accept your greatness, own your greatness. And throughout this whole year of 2020, and of course, Deepak and I have a big, big vision. We have a 2020 vision of actually a whole decade moving forward of supporting you moment by moment, week by week on these calls, and of course in our private Facebook group. And at the end, we're going to do like a 2-minute share of exactly how you can get and stay involved in this. So last week we talked about our tactics, and I'm going to just quickly remind you of the mind map exercise. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. This is the mind map exercise that talked about my business goal. Now I have a total of 3 goals for the first Q1, quarter 1 of 2020. I have this goal. I have a personal goal, having to do with a certain weight and a health and fitness goal. And then I have another personal goal of wanting to learn and have a very high level of conversational French, because in the summer, we're going to spend time in France. And so I'm thinking already ahead to Q2 and Q3, and where I'm going to be able to create some results in the end of 2020 as well. So if you have your mind map out, you can get that out or just look at it. If you're just joining us today for the first time, take a look at it, and maybe you can tweak and refine. So once you did the mind map, and again, the extensions, the circles, those are what we call your tactics. And so I'm going to stop my share and find the next visual for you guys. Bear with me here. These are actually, I'm going to also type in the website where you can gain access to these visuals that I'm about to share with you. I actually purchased the 12-week year planner. They just went on sale this month, and you can actually follow along in 2020 and however long you want. You can sign up and have a prescription and get a new 12-week year calendar every quarter, which is what I'm choosing to do, and a lot of my sales team members are choosing to do. But this is what happens next. After you have that mind map with those tactics, this is an example of a woman named Susan Preston. She's a client who has these 12-week goals. And if you joined us today for the first time, the 12-week year concept is to get more results in 12 weeks than the average person does in a year. Because there's a lot of annualized thinking, especially around New Year's resolutions. People are like, yeah, I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to commit. And then after 4 weeks, their commitment has fizzled, and they've gone back into what we call stagnation or complacency. And they just don't get nearly as much done as they could. So the goal is that you can own your time, win back the week, the day, the month, and get more done in 2020. And so that's part of our journey with you. So you can see she wrote down her goal. Her first goal is achieve $62,000 in production credits. And then she wrote down her tactics. She wrote down her commitments. This isn't a to-do list. These are action. So I want you to write down your tactics, if you haven't already, just on a sheet of paper from your mind map last week. And I know we have the recording from last week too. Deepak and I can get that to you if you want to watch that, to do that exercise in entirety. But she's got schedule and conduct 2 3-hour prospecting blocks, schedule 10 appointments, conduct 2 client reviews, deliver a prompter list. Not all of these things apply to you. I'm just going through. She's asking for referrals. These are ideas that you can also put into your list. She's got her second goal, and she's got her third goal, which was weigh 130 pounds. Again, very common. Weight loss is an easy one to think about. For me, I have, to learn French, I've got to research classes. I've got to sign up for Babbel Online, which I've actually already done. I've got to schedule out my weekly time commitments and days and things on my calendar, which I'm going to show you in a second. But you want to do this with all of your goals. Now, we recommended last week 1 personal and 1 professional. So 1 and 1, again, is that arrow, that focus. You got your eyes on the prize. So as people come in and say, hey, do you want to sign up for my opportunity? Or, hey, do you want to volunteer like 30 hours of your life this month to this thing? You can honestly say, no, I am laser beam focused. I am committed, not interested. I am intellectually and emotionally focused on this. So that's why we have you do 1 and 1. But if you want to have a third one, like I'm doing the third one with learning French, you can totally do that. Then what do? What is the next step after this? This is actually a model work week. Now, we're not going to have a time management class today, but this, and again, I'm gonna show you the slides, how you access these slides yourself. There's a website I can give to you here in the chat feature. But this is an example So if you've read the 12-week year, you've set your goals, you did your mind mapping exercise, you wrote down your tactics, your commitments, your actions that you're going to commit to, and you saw on that sheet, I'll show it up again, there's some things that she did every single week. There's some things she only did in week 5 and week 2. You know, there's always the opportunity, guys, if you're reading the book and you're attending these classes and you're not quite sure, you're not quite getting it, you can hire me. You can hire Deepak at any time for one-on-one coaching, even just for a month, to be able to really, really, really dig down deeper in depth into this program. That's always available to you. So once you get those figured out and what week you're going to do what, then you figure out your week. Jim Rohn said, when do you start your week? When it's finished on paper. And you could have every single week be exactly the same. So let me explain what these green blocks are. And I'm hoping you guys, you would be saying something to me in chat or text if you weren't seeing this. You'll see in the green, there's the weekly plan and SC. They're actually just reviewing their weekly plan and making sure that, you know, Monday morning, you want to reflect on your plan every week, because you might tweak it. You might add things. You might remove things. You're always reflecting at the beginning of each week or at the end of each week is what's working and what's not working, right? We actually have a scoring system I'm going to talk about in the new year. How do you score your week? And then by knowing, hey, this week I only scored 60% of my commitments and my actions, that's not acceptable if I want to get here, right? I've got this big goal and I'm missing the mark. I'm falling way short. How can I tweak that? So we'll talk about that in the new year. So with this, they also have buffer blocks. Buffer blocks are the admin time. Buffer blocks are usually only 30 to 60 minutes. And for some of us, like me, I have 2 30-minute buffer blocks a day, just like they suggest here. You might have 1 hour. And what is a buffer block exactly? Why would you do that? What's the purpose of that? Well, Deepak did a beautiful job of explaining distractions. Distractions are also email, texting, WhatsApp, all the different ways, Facebook, social media, Instagram. You can say, oh, I'm just going to quick check Facebook. And then 3 hours later, you got a shiny object, a squirrel that detoured you off of that commitment, right? So I would challenge you to schedule those buffer blocks and start using it even this week. You know, my new 12-week year is actually going to start on January 7th. We're going to be resuming on Thursday, January 2nd. Just so you know, we will not have a call next week due to the holiday, but we will resume on January 2nd. And why not play with some of these in the here and now? Because it does take usually 30, 60, 90 days. That's why we do 3 to 4 12-week years in a year, because your first 12-week year, you're just learning, you're adapting, you're growing and developing these new skills and habits and helping yourself get rid of those distractions. And Rome wasn't built in a day. So just have that mindset as well. So buffer blocks is when you check your email, check your Facebook, check the communication systems. It's just admin time. What is a strategic block, really quickly, and then I'll be ending here in 1 minute. A strategic block is usually a 2 or 3 hour block where your phone is off, you're focused on your plan, you're focused on pouring into yourself, you're focusing on studying your prospect list, sorting and qualifying that, you're focusing on maybe your scripts and dialogues. We're going to do some scripts training too. Maybe you're focused on making sure that you're reprogramming your mind to really commit to those buffer blocks and figure out how to be free from distractions. It could be your personal development time. This is where you're developing yourself to be a better speaker, or maybe it's listening to audios, maybe it's re-listening to some of these trainings so that you can continue, because you really have to hear things 7 times or more to internalize it and to really comprehend it and get it from your head to your heart. And of course, they only have 1 strategic block because the rest of the week, you got to be in the doing mode and the actions and the tactics and following through. So you see the prospecting, you see appointments, you see a referral lunch. Again, these are just ideas. And they also have a breakout block once or twice a month. And that's your fun time. That's your celebration time. That's your time to just be like, oh, I did it. And just, go take the family to a movie, go hang out at a park, or go do something for yourself to refuel your bucket. It could be spiritual time. It could be whatever you want it to be, but it's the time where you also turn off your phone. You're not taking calls. You're not making calls. You're really taking care of yourself and owning your greatness. It's a refueling time. So I hope I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. That's how we always want to end the call. Right now, since we're such a small group, we are at 30 minutes. I can see us as we get to our goal of 1,000 members, that we will have more longer periods of time. Some days we could do 60 minutes, some days 30. So does anybody have any questions? You can take yourself off of mute, and I'm going to find that website that I can share with you guys.
Thanks, Louis. This has been quite informative, and I love the fact that the way to mix it, because I always believe that humans are not robots. So it's good that during the chart that you put, the tactics also include the break time, time with family, time with vacation, time for that's very important, because the difference between machine and people. Yes, Lucy.
Awesome. Yeah, I unmuted everyone just in case someone did have a question. I apologize. I should have let you know that. Does anybody have any questions of how you go from taking the tactics on paper to putting them into your week, knowing that this will be an ongoing topic and an ongoing process?
For me, the hardest part is I'm a type A personality, and I can vision putting a very heavy week together, and then all it takes is a 911 call from the kid. I've had a car accident or a big snowstorm, and now I'm trying to find the holes in my schedule so that I can get to the appointments, and now everything starts to fall back. How does one deal with that, as a daily schedule that you've got all planned out begins to crumble before you? What are some of the things you would recommend in that scenario?
That's awesome. And I could probably talk an hour on that, but I'm going to keep it simple. So you'll want to I call them income producing activities, IPAs. I find that if we can do our income producing activities before noon, most days, the 911s come after noon, like after everyone's awake, everyone's gotten, to work, gotten in their car. I have seen that statistically be true. Now, my example yesterday, I wake up to finding out that, one of my friends committed suicide. It was a different day, very different day than what I had on paper. So we tell you to be strategic, still set your boundaries. I don't mean to diminish our children or diminish our business partners or diminish anything, but if you can spend, it's that 80-20 rule. If you can get the 20% done before noon, all those fires, those 911s, they will wait for you. I mean, unless someone is dead on the side of the road, that's a different story. You know what I mean? So we, as parents, as business owners, as leaders, we can't allow someone else's distraction to become our own. It takes a lot of emotional intelligence, and trust me, it took me a while, and I'm still working on that. But if you can get those most important things done in the first part of your day, then let the rest of the day be the fluid component. And just know that we want you to win the week. So what does that mean? That's why we have the scoring system, which I'm going to talk about in the new year. We want you to win the week. So that means a majority of your days are highly productive. Our goal is to have you score an 80%. So if you think about that, you got Monday through Friday. Some of us work Monday through Saturday, but I'm just going to use the Monday through Friday because that's what they have on this picture. That means you can have one day go sideways in a perfect world, right? You know, there's times where you're going to have two, and next week is a holiday, and the week after, so it's going to look a little different, but you take that into consideration, and the goal is to win 4 out of 5 because that's an 80% score.
Nice. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to stop my share too. Deepak, do you mind sharing the irresistible offer that we have now for Mimi and Lucy? I know is already a member, and we do also covet your referrals, Mimi, if you know someone who would want to take advantage of this 2020 course that we're going to continue to do every Thursday, and the Facebook group and all of that.
Okay.
Great, yeah.
So go ahead, Deepak.
Yeah, so this is the offer we have. We call it the success mantra. I hope am I muted?
Nope.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Good. So good. I think going ahead as a repetition, the success mantra is as follows. The Louis and Deepak, we got this thing in place of continuing this through the year for every Thursday, running this call on an ongoing basis. So it's almost 2.5 hours coaching every month, 2 to 2.5 hours coaching every month. And we also plan to have open office hours, Facebook Live once a month, and we'll have featured guest speakers once a month. And between the two of us, we have close to 38 years of coaching experience. And if you see the total value of it, it's quite priceless. The key advantage of this is the geographical distance. So we're going to kind of ensure that you get the best of both the worlds, the East and the West, and that will make it a truly global experience. So I'm of course connected to a lot of people in Asia and Africa, and Louis is connected US and Canada and Europe. We all have a connection. So we're going to ensure that the whole thing spans across the globe. And that's the key thing which differentiates us from anybody else in terms of a group coaching. So it's a unique combination that we have, which is what we are taking care of. And the special offer that we have, till probably this weekend is the actual offer, is $900 USD per year. But we are giving this up the entire 2020 with both of us together at a $497 USD one-time payment. And we already have a few signups, and we're just looking to get this off the road and have a great 2020. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepak. It is 10:30 Central Time, and I know it's up. Our time is up. But does anybody have any other questions based on the content today? I did, in the Zoom chat, guys, I did send you the website where you can access those PDFs, those documents, the tactics goal sheet, as well as the actual model week. And it's actually, just so you know, the where I got it as a resource, and it's totally free to the public. This is the 12-week year planner support center page. So not that you have to get the planner. There's no I'm not selling it to you, and there's no pressure to do so. However, I will tell you, I have my own copy, and I have never seen a more strategically structured and supportive planner in my life. And I love having a planner on paper. The phone and technology can be our worst enemy at times and fail us. And there's not something more powerful about putting it in writing and having that impact the brain. And Plus, we all spend a lot of time on technology as it is, so it's a good habit to get things down on paper. So check that website out. And anybody have any questions before we sign off?
Nope.
Awesome. Well, we will wish you an amazing finish to 2019. We want to thank you for investing time with us today. Acknowledge you. I know in the hustle bustle of the holiday season, we have quite a few people missing today, and we are just really grateful for you showing up. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, and have an amazing finish to this year, to this decade. I hope you can really reflect upon what went well for you and what you want to take into this new year and this new decade. And I know on behalf of Deepak, I can say that we're super honored and humbled and excited to support you guys in this new decade ahead.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you
Thanks,
in 2
Mimi
weeks.
and Lucy.
And we'll
Yes.
see you next year.
Okay.
Happy
Bye.
Christmas and Merry New Year. Yeah. Thank you.